Welcome to Black Republican, Black Democrat. I'm Jamar.
I'm AK Kamara.
Welcome to the show tonight. What's going on, AK?
Welcome, man. You know, how's your week been since the last show?
God is good, and I'm here. So, hey,
that's half the battle, man.
That's half the damn battle. Is waking up every morning and getting here. No, I honestly I appreciate. I appreciate what I'm doing currently. COVID testing. Let me give a little cheap plug for if you want no wait for your COVID testing. We're doing rapid testing on 18th and Lindell behind the mosque, right across from Cub Foods in North Minneapolis. Rapid test, 10 to 15 minutes, unless you're positive. And when you're positive, it comes back very, very fast. So by the time I get back in the van, I'm like, oh, this guy is positive. So no wait, because I know some of the lines are extremely long. Where we have no wait. So come on down, get tested, and they're extremely accurate, and you will get proof of it. So that if they ask, "Have you been tested?" Yes, you'll get you get the information email you get the results, sent to your email, and you can use those because we work with a reputable company, Mainstack, that I just plugged them. Okay, that is very reputable, and you can use that for getting into the.
Well, that's good because I just saw a story that there's a couple COVID testing companies that are being investigated by
the AG suing a few.
Yeah. So that's good. I always know of some actual reputable ones that will give you the information that you're looking for. There's a big elephant in the room right now, man.
What's the big elephant in the room?
How dem boys do.
Oh, please,
bro!
Really? Oh, stop.
Come on, man.
Yeah, well,
I thought when I asked you how your week was, you were gonna be dejected.
Why? No.
You're gonna be like,
no.
We just got, we just couldn't perform against the Niners, the high flying offense of the Cowboys,
which wasn't the case.
What happened, bro?
Which wasn't the.
What happened?
Wait. Sorry for chiming in from the back.
Yeah,
please.
Was there a football game that the Cowboys played this weekend? I must have missed it.
America's team did play, and America's team, we lost. Of course I was disappointed, and the dejection was Sunday evening. That Pittsburgh game was pissy. So I was highly disappointed that we didn't make it into the next round. I thought that I know that this defense was incredibly good enough. I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah, they only put up good, bro.
Okay. They only put up 2 touchdowns on us, and the rest were field goals the rest of the game because the defense clamped down. Our offense needed to do more. It was on Dakota to do more, and he just didn't get the job done. This is why I kept saying it. I
like how you're on a full name basis with him.
Well, it's Rain Dakota. I don't call him by his nickname all the time until he starts doing something.
Oh, so when he's doing something, then he's back to Dak.
Well, he's still Dakota. You got to earn something, dude. Come on now. Listen. He's taking us as far as Tony Romo did. He's right now currently 1-3 in the playoffs, and I miss Romo. I think if you give Tony Romo the defense that we have right now,
yeah.
Honestly, bro, I'm telling you, you could etch Tony's name into that Vince Lombardi trophy. Listening to his games and to realize how smart he was, only validates how I felt about him as a quarterback. I'm like Terrell Owens. That's my quarterback. Okay? I absolutely love Tony Romo. I believe Tony Romo, it will be in the Hall of Fame. He's, surpassed every record and broke every record as a Cowboy quarterback. Except for Dakota broke his record for seasons touchdown thrown in a year, and that was 36 Tony threw, and he threw 37. So I'm disappointed. And then what scares you is this defense was so good, and now we've got like 24, 28 free agents.
Yeah.
You can't bring all those people back, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the interesting thing at the NFL is that, you have a team that goes into the playoffs, doesn't do jack squat. The Vikings have struggled to do anything in the playoffs, and
you always do.
We got rid of head coach, got rid of the GM. We're going to be trying to build this thing back up together, but it's kind of like now at this point you're playing with house money. Like I personally, when it comes to football, I'm not that big of a fan of football. Like of all the
What?
things I'm just not. I'm a huge Vikings fan.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Like I watch the Vikings. It's like destination. Either I have to listen to it on the radio, watch it on Yahoo Sports for free, because
Something's been going on with Yahoo Sports. I've been trying to, because for some reason with I don't want to plug the people that I have.
Sure.
But they're pretty big and they own a phone company. Okay. So I can't get channel 11 on my phone. For some
weird.
reason. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
No, there's all these weird like contract agreements, stuff like
So,
that. But I'm
I
destination. But now it's like I did actually watch a decent portion of the Cowboys game just because I wanted to see just, because I would look at the box scores and the week before they scored they put 53 points on
51.
Yeah,
something like that.
They had a couple of games right before the playoffs,
which scares me. I told my son and my nephew that each game that we put up 50 points, the next game we've come out flat. So it scared me that we put up 50 points
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I now I'm just like watching the playoffs, and I'll catch bits and pieces of game here and there, and I'll usually just go through and I'll watch like the game recap if anything. But like that's my level of involvement, because I don't do fantasy. I haven't done fantasy football. I did it one time ever and everything like that. But I
don't play insanity football either. No, I don't play it either. No, but listen. You've got to. This is. Well, I love I'm a avid football fan. I live vicariously through my son for basketball. Spud Webb, don't pull that on me. Oh, Spud Webb was the same height as you. Don't pull that crap on me. I can't play Spud. Good, that's the difference, okay? And so I will continue to watch, even though we're not in the players. This is the part of football that you love, because here's the one thing. Remember, this is a season. Well, you may not be aware. This season there was an extra game added.
Yep. Oh, I know that.
So now I think that this champion now has an advantage on the previous 55 other champions, because this champion, they had a longer season.
Yeah.
So
shorter preseason but longer regular season.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to have 4 preseason games and then 18 or 17 regular season games.
I kind of like the 17 game season, to be honest. I know that preseason's meant it has its own purpose, whatever, but I think you could probably get away with 2 preseason. Like
that's what they do now.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Continue to have that model. I don't know if this was just the one.
No. That's it. That was the takeoff.
Because I know they always have the Hall of Fame game or whatever.
You had a Hall of Fame game, and then you have the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. And so you got 2 preseason games, and now the extra regular season game. So again, these champions to me are I think have more grit. There's a more grind in this season, and it's wide open. I cannot tell you. Everyone I know has Aaron Rodgers maybe there. I'm not convinced that Green Bay. They got to go to the frozen tundra, dude. It's cold, but it's football. People they play in cold weather. I'm not totally convinced that Aaron Rodgers will be in the Super Bowl. It's so wide open, and that's what I love.
Thank you for tuning into NFL Talk with Jamar and
Yes, listen. I'm going to say the other station I used to be on. Absolutely, I love this. Is what I do. Especially catch me on Saturday mornings on a certain radio station. All right, you can hear me every Saturday.
But yeah, man. Last week we kind of teased that we had some guests and some things kind of fell through. We haven't rescheduled in the next couple of weeks, but we have some really good guests coming on. We should be having a former NFL player that will be actually joining the show. We got to nail down a couple of things, but we have some good shows coming up. But today we want to kind of get into a handful of things that are happening in real time. Like right now, as we're kind of having this conversation, there's on C-SPAN, there's a vote going on that Democrats and Republicans are very split on.
Well, yeah. I mean, because Republicans never do a damn thing. They're obstructionists. But the voting rights bill, which is extremely serious and near and dear to my heart and to others' heart. Bro, there comes a time, honestly, when there are certain things that should not be so partisan, for real, when it comes to politics. And this is absolutely one of them. I've read. Have you looked at it?
Yeah.
The things that asking for are not unreasonable things. I think when I look at what Texas has done, I don't care how conservative you are. I think you can go too far in the name of protecting voting rights. Like if you're sent out, or if you don't change your address, The candidate is not allowed to send you out a new form. That's a felony now in Texas if the particular candidate does that. Um, Drop boxes are in slanted areas. They're not. They took them out of the rural black and Latino areas and moved them to areas where the lady was saying that without really a vehicle, you can't get there. I just think that, and I know that's politics. I don't mean to be, naive about it, bro. But voting, I know how sacred it is, and so that's why I always tell people that when especially black folks, when they say that my vote doesn't count, I say, well, then why do people go through so much? Why do they, meaning Republicans and white folks, go through so much? Go through so much to suppress it, right? No, if your vote doesn't count, they wouldn't do so much to suppress your vote. And there is real voter suppression. That isn't just a talking point that parties use, the Democrats use. I think some of the crazier progressives and liberals overdo it and cry wolf when it isn't all the time. But there is real voter suppression, and I think that the voting right bill, bro, should be something that, as a people, as a country, we should put party aside and vote on this.
So, man, when you kind of bring up some of these issues, I want to understand what specifically you have. I guess what specifically do you see that is impeding people from voting, and like the even just the way that you just mentioned, right? The Voting Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act that actually passed back in '64 and '68, right? Like they actually removed true barriers that existed. This new voting rights bill that is coming through has conservatives very concerned. It's not just Republicans. It's conservatives, independents that lean to the right, because during a pandemic, states made certain concessions, right? One of those concessions was, hey, certain states want to have early voting drop-off boxes. And what was the main concern that conservatives had with those boxes?
Y'all use them in
security.
Yeah,
security, right? That and you can say that it's nonsense, but if enough people feel that that's an issue and that's important to them to believe that the election is secure, that's an issue. And so it's interesting how the framing, right? Because you genuinely believe that it would make less suppression, whereas my side says there is nothing right now that is suppressive. If you go to your polling location, you can vote. You can vote if you go to your polling location. And this bill would nationalize the election process. It would say, here is a national standard, and every state gets to have absentee ballots. So no longer are you going to say from state to state, you're going to make your own decisions. No state can have their own absentee ballot requirements. There's a minimum. You have to have early voting for this amount of time. And there's even parts.
And you should.
But the reason why conservatives don't like that idea is because it does open the door for fraud 100%. Because, if you think about it, we talk about ballot harvesting, and
y'all do.
You are probably a proponent of it. You say, yeah, why not go if someone can't make it, they're old or whatever, and they can't make it to bring their ballot in, why shouldn't someone be able that knows them be able to collect the ballots? But we have stories, right, that show that people take advantage of that. There's people that will go and collect 200, 300 ballots. And again, our side is saying that we want security. We want to make sure that the people that are voting actually are supposed to be voting in the district that they live, that they're only voting one time. And that's what our concern is. I know that there are some crazies that are like, yeah, we don't want black people to vote. But that's such a small percentage.
No,
but
not really.
It is, man.
Here's the thing.
Why would I want less black people to vote?
Voting twice, as a person that has accidentally done it, taking people to vote because I'm always carpooling. It doesn't. There's no. You don't have two votes. Oh, those two. No. The computer. We have technology. Quickly notices that Jamar was in at the library, and then now he's at the park. it nullifies one of those votes, or sometimes both. So it looks like the Jamar doesn't vote. So that's not. There's never been an issue. That's been going on for years. What kills me is how concerned you guys have become since Donald Trump lost. You did not hear about how concerned you guys were about election fraud prior to Trump.
Republicans have been pushing voter ID
You've
laws
been pushing voter suppression
for a long time.
Yes, but now
why do you call that suppression though? Like, what about?
Because when you pass laws that say that people that are standing in the hot sun can't get water, that someone can't give them water, or they can't be fed when they're standing. First of all, why should a voting line be 2 and 3 hours long? That's something that everyone should be
you act like it's on purpose. It's a function just because they need to make more precincts. Why don't you try and tackle that issue?
And so if you don't, then the lady that has been voting since she was 18 and now she's 88, that takes pride in voting like I do, standing in this hot line, she shouldn't have any water. Should she just pass out? Okay, yeah, let this lady die while she's voting. I think that's more that's appropriate. No, how do you make that? How do you make that a law that says no one can give you water when you're standing in a line? No one can feed you when you're standing in that line for 2 hours, 3 hours. No one can do that. That's against the law now.
Because people take advantage of it.
Listen, folks. Wait a minute. Do you guys think that was there voter fraud in 2016?
There's voter fraud in every election.
So how widespread was the voter fraud in 2020?
How widespread was it? Well, it depends on your definition. I would say that it was more likely to occur in 2020 than it was to occur in 2016 because you had all of these rule changes. And Republicans signed off on it, okay? In Pennsylvania, okay, a state that Donald Trump did not win, the Republicans in 2019 changed the voting laws to allow for earlier voting and for basically ballot harvesting. And when you do that, you create an error in which, again, people that want to take advantage of systems, I'm not going to go as far to say that there's a grand conspiracy, but I think that when people understand that this is easier to do in these areas and we can run up the vote and we can use these tactics, especially in highly populated areas that are heavily Democrat, I think it increases.
How come
the
it's
chances
only
for
fraud done in Democrat area? That's what kills me about Republicans.
Well,
only Democrats commit fraud.
It's not because of the Democrat area.
If there was such widespread voter fraud in this election, explain to me, like I'm a 3-year-old, how Donald Trump loses, but there were more Republican gains nationwide than there has been in about the last 2 or 3 election cycles, even with more Republican gains than when Donald Trump got elected in 2016. So to me, it's those folks that said, when you talk about buyer's remorse, that's buyer remorse. It was folks that said, I had enough. I've seen 4 years of this crap. I don't think so. I'm going to vote for Biden or somebody write-in, and then I'm going to vote down ballot for the other Republicans.
I never said that Trump lost because of the fraud or irregularities. I never said that. I'm saying that there was probably more in not probably. I know for a fact that there was more. I can't give you a specific data set, but I can say that when you allow for 2-3 weeks of early voting and you allow for absentee for any reason, I believe that it increases the chances that people will abuse the system, because you always talk about how I'm Pollyanna, right? Yeah. That I don't live in a realville. What is one standard that you know that exists in the real world? If there is an opportunity to take advantage of something, there will be people that take advantage of it. It's kind of like, okay, you know what? Voting is a right. And let's say that there's another right that people have, right? And you say there should be free water everywhere. No one should ever have to pay for water. And let's say you never want to have anybody ever pay for water. So you just, companies come and they just set out pallets of water and they say, this is free. How many days is that pallet of free water is going to be available? I'll give you maybe hours. And some areas it might be minutes. Someone will come and take all the free waters, and then they'll say, I'll sell you this water. Because again, the idea might be the idea might be, you know what? Let's make voting as easy as possible.
And you should.
Right? But again, you are sacrificing security.
You're not sacrificing.
That's what you're doing.
When
You're
the
sacrificing
guy
security.
that was over the election, what's the grand title he has? I can't remember. A Trump appointed guy, a Republican, said this was the safest election in history. Right? They said that without even the foreign interference, that just here in the country, that this was the safest election. 7 million people, which is what he lost by. That's an astronomical number, and it makes sense. The last Democratic president beat his two opponents by a total of 14 or 15 million votes. 14 to 15 million votes. President Obama killed. I'm sorry. 11 million, 11 or 12 million, because he beat Romney by like 7 and McCain by like 3 or 4, something like that, right? So to think that this president beat his opponent by 7 million votes, it makes sense. Democrats, we win big, and I won't deny that there's some voter fraud, but I don't think it's as purposeful and as widespread. It isn't as purposeful and widespread as you guys think. Again, if I change if I used to live on the north side, and I forget now that I'm used to voting, I've been voting over there for 30 years. That's where I naturally would go back and vote.
But you shouldn't be voting there.
And they might allow it because my name is still, because sometimes
But you shouldn't be voting there,
but it's the
man.
system. Your name could still be in there. Even though you changed it, even though you did what you're supposed to do, your name could still be in there. And then you go ahead and vote because I've been voting there for years.
And
those
so-
are accidental things.
But
There was no where are the convictions for this widespread voter fraud that you guys talk about that this duly elected president got elected from?
So this is a point that always kills me when I hear people talk about it from your perspective, is if there's so much widespread voter fraud, why aren't people being busted at levels that are insanely high?
Oh, yeah.
And my simple explanation is because they're not getting caught.
Oh,
But
we
again-
know, we see it, but we're not catching them.
Oh, you know,
Because your names are on these ballots now.
possessing and selling heroin is illegal, but why do we have right now in America an epidemic of heroin use and overdose deaths? It's the same thing. You can't.
But they don't have. We don't have a higher number. We don't have a high number of arrests for those crimes either, though, huh? Of course we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
We have a record high number of crack convictions. Let's not even talk about talking
about crack.
No.
I'm saying heroin specifically.
heroin
okay?
too. There are
I'm
convictions.
specifically
Are there
talking about heroin.
convictions for heroin dealing?
We don't have
and
high,
usage.
So
Sure we do.
you're telling me that right now there are more people being incarcerated for heroin than ever before? That is not true.
I'm telling
That is
you,
categorically false.
I'm telling you that there are a high number of arrests for heroin users and heroin
not-
dealers.
No, it's not.
Yes, there is.
It's not higher than
So-
the amount of. And my point of the stupid anecdote, which is way off topic, is that just because there aren't people being caught doesn't mean it's not happening. And again, my
If it's
two
that
main
widespread,
points-
we're 7 million,
But my-
and then
my-
you guys are
but my
only
two- my
you guys
two points
only
aren't
notice
that it's a
fraud in the
grand
black
scheme.
and brown neighborhoods.
No, what I said earlier was that in areas that have high population densities, it just happens to be that high population dense areas tend to be more Democrat.
And those are only places where they're fraud. Huh?
Where you have high population, it's more likely to occur.
The last convictions I remember were of white Republicans.
No, there was
Candidates
there was a couple of women down in Texas that just got convicted, and they harvested over like 300 and some
Oh,
ballots.
please bring that up because I definitely want to see that. What color were they? You saying black women did this?
They were Hispanic and they
Oh.
were Democrats.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Sure. I know.
And this what I'm saying though is that it's not a grand conspiracy or grand scheme, but when you have a system that doesn't have the security level that Republicans want to ensure exist, then it opens up for these improprieties to happen. And here's we'll go back to the voting rights bill that's being talked about that's not going to pass because you don't have enough Republicans to support it, and they're trying to basically get rid of the filibuster so you can have a 50+1. But even if that were to happen, Joe Manchin said he's not going to support it, so again it's already dead on arrival. But here's the issue: if we talk about voting rights and specifically what Republicans have a problem with, we have a
It's
problem
black people
with,
voting.
We don't care.
Yes, of course you do. Because black and brown Democrats are now starting to the
even
numbers
though more
proven.
black and brown people are voting Republican
They
now.
are not.
than-
What do y'all pull that out of your ass? That is so
I've
untrue.
given you the stats.
That is so
times.
untrue.
30.
You cannot give me those numbers when black enterprises and myself that's been involved on the streets when I see. You can't tell me that these black folks
I'm sorry
in these neighborhoods.
I'm sorry that your lived experience doesn't prove to you because you never actually go and look at the actually look at what the ballot says. But here's the point.
Sure, I don't.
The point is that
not only because I'm involved with political candidates where we have to do that. No.
So you don't believe that more people are identifying as Republican
more
in
black and brown people
communities?
No, they are not. After 4 years of Trump, you're going to tell me that the numbers are higher for black and brown folks as Republicans?
Yes.
That is such bullshit.
Absolutely.
And I know for a fact that it's not true. Black enterprises, do you ever look at black enterprises? Because I keep trying to tell you, bro, you bring these numbers from these white magazines where they're not
white magazines?
With these white news outlets, bro. These are the outlets you're talking about.
Is Pew Research a reputable enough institution of polling data information
done by white people?
Pew
Research. Done by white folks that are. It's not. I think you should look at it.
Pew Research is one of the most it's
done by white folks
accepted.
that are not going into black. I say I don't know why I say this to you all the time, bro, and probably your mom too. They are not going into black neighborhoods, knocking on their doors. They only send. I get a survey sometimes. Do you get political surveys?
Here we go
I just asked you a question, bro. Do you get political surveys?
Yes, I get political surveys.
Do you think everybody gets political surveys?
Not everybody.
Most that get them on their phone. They don't even bother. Black and brown folks don't even bother to answer.
This is not a knock to you. I don't think you understand how polling works and how you weight data, man. It's not a black versus brown.
I've
versus
only
white
worked
thing.
with some of the best posters in the country.
I have a degree from
Right now, we're working with
for
KSPR. Right now, I'm working with one right now with the candidate that I'm working for. Of course, I know how polling works, but I also know, and they tell you too, it does matter if I'm not reaching the real folks. If I'm not talking to black folks that actually come out and vote, who don't answer these political questions, who don't get these political surveys, you're going to tell me that those folks.
So you're telling me that the sample size, those people are lying when they say that they're black.
The 1,000 people that they sample,
I'm talking about the hundreds of thousands of.
I've never seen a Pew poll that has got that has went out and talked to 100,000 people and given you they don't.
I'm talking about aggregate. Yes.
The average poll, they only survey 500 to 1,500 people. That's it.
So by your own determination,
No, by the facts.
All of the people that are answering these surveys that are not white, and they are showing that the weight is showing that there are more black and brown people, not based off of what white people say, but based off the actual respondents that are not white. That's what the polling data is about. Or are you telling me that they're finding the unicorn Negroes like me?
I'm telling you that
they're only finding me, and then they're not finding. But because the
that's
people
exactly what I'm saying.
But they're waiting.
Half the black folks that I know don't.
They're waiting.
They're waiting. Don't answer
the polls.
them.
The polls are weighted, man.
Okay.
They take demographic information and then they compare it to the rest of the population, and then they put a weighting factor on it. So if they only
how did the number of black folks increase for Joe Biden more than it did in 2016, and almost numbers that matched President Obama's first election? How did that happen if it's browning for Republicans? I don't get that.
As a percentage of the vote, more browning occurred towards Republicans.
Sure.
The total number of votes, like you just said, historically high, right? 2020 was the highest ever of all history in the United States of total votes, right? So when you look at the total vote number, yes, that total vote number is higher. But as a percentage,
your candidate,
you had more black and brown people, non-white.
Your candidate did not increase the black vote. I talked about this all the time. Black folks, especially black males, because he did bad with black women. Period.
He did.
Black males that made 100,000 or better.
I keep saying the 100,000, but there's 33% of black men in Minnesota do not make $100,000 a year.
And they do not identify themselves. They only identify themselves. And you can't have successful black folks. 33% of
you think that 33% of black males in Minnesota make $100,000 a year? You want to know what that would do to skew the poverty, the disparity of poverty.
What you're telling me is that if you don't make but the numbers are 100,000
it's
black
not.
men. That
No.
corporate black men.
No,
the number
it's
for
18
corporate
to
black
24-year-olds
men.
had the
No,
highest
corporate black
percentage of
men,
that.
bro. How do?
Young black men.
Oh my god. I don't get where you pull these numbers out of your ass from.
I've showed you before
You
on the
can't
show.
show me.
Yes, I have. I had the CNN exit poll. We had it on the show. But let's move beside that. Here's the main point, is that when we talk about voting rights, when you frame the argument that it's about suppressing black and brown people, that is a belief that is not actually supported by black and brown people that are in the Republican Party. Are there some people that say, yeah, we want to have less voters because black people tend to vote Democrat? Sure, there might be a small percentage, but again, the issue is security. That's the concern. Security.
Our producer was putting up numbers for you. It's not, you guys don't care about security because you didn't care about it in 2016. You guys care about it when you see that the country is browning. States that are religiously red were flipped because people were tired of the guy that was carrying the mantra. They're tired of some of their people, their local leaders as well. And election stuff happens. And so in those black and brown neighborhoods in Michigan and in Georgia and in Florida, I'm sorry, what other state did Ohio, excuse me. Only in the black and brown areas where there's voter fraud. Okay, no, because white Republicans, they don't cheat. They just pull guns on you when you walk down the street.
What? So if you're asking if voter irregularities can occur in Republican areas, the obvious answer is yes, it can. But the issue is it's more likely to occur in highly densely populated areas.
That's just bullshit.
If you think that,
you don't think that
Miami,
you don't think there could be widespread. You don't think that there could be ballot harvesting, which we've proved. We've seen evidence of it, and rural white neighborhoods and suburban white neighborhoods, they don't do that.
Well, if you actually want an answer, most Republicans overwhelmingly would rather vote in person because they don't trust technology.
Okay.
They don't trust dropping their ballot in the mail.
Oh, okay.
Because when we talked about this leading up to the 2020 election, when they were looking at the data of how many absentee ballots, and they were trying to track because they knew that on election day, most Republicans were going to show up. And I think it was something like 65%, maybe even as high as 70% of Republicans showed up on election day. Okay. It was opposite for Democrats. Only like 30% of the total number of Democrats that showed up on election day. When there was the option for mail-in and early voting, Democrats opted to take that option versus Republicans would rather vote in person. And again, it has more or less to do with a belief in a system. Republicans are more likely to believe that if they leave the option in someone else's hands, that someone, especially the government, will mess it up.
Oh yeah.
And they don't want that to happen. They want to come and actually go down to the precinct, fill out their paper ballot, put it into the machine, and visually see it happen. Because if they don't see all of these things happening, they don't believe they believe something is messed up is happening.
Wow.
But you know what?
Making it harder
I think it's important to try and understand what your perspective and what, I know you're speaking for yourself, but you've been a lifelong Democrat, of what this actually means for voting rights. And for me, again, I'll say it, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Republicans want safe and secure elections. We don't care how many people vote. We want safe and secure elections. And that's what it comes down to.
You guys could cheat, as long as you guys are cheating. It does not, because again, you guys want to have your cake and eat it too. You guys want it both ways. You want to make it easier for you guys to cheat, and suppression is cheating. And
what do you mean by suppression, though? Who's being suppressed? Have you been involved in this conversation for the last 20 minutes? How? What acts are stopping people from voting? Because when you say suppression, I think that it means stop you from voting. What is stopping you from voting? If the rule is you got to go, and unless you're elderly or have an excuse.
So when you when you cut off or change the hours of voting, early voting, That's not suppression. When you know, when you just yourself just said, who's more likely to do mail-in ballots or absentee?
I
What'd you
said
just say?
Democrats
Oh,
based off of
okay.
the virus.
So let's go off.
Based off of the
let's-
virus, though.
Let's just go off your numbers. So
I guess I should have clarified
Oh.
because of COVID.
okay, well, COVID hasn't gone yet.
That's why Democrats
So,
were more
at
likely
any
to
rate,
vote
so
not in person.
Did you not see how the large numbers of absentee and ballots that went in, right?
That can still happen, though.
So now Republicans noticed that too. They got killed on that. What do? Let's change the rules on that.
Oh, you mean put them back to where they were before COVID?
No. How about we now make it so hard?
That's all they're doing. They're like the Texas laws are changing it back to what it was before COVID. They made election provisions because of COVID. Unprecedented. I get it. Pandemic, man. Right? I think it was important to make certain changes.
Yeah, not to the point where you where
But now with everybody being vaccinated, people wearing masks, having enough availability, go back to in person to have that security back again.
But we don't have to. Why not? We're dealing with different times now, so folks aren't comfortable to vote in person anymore because you can catch it from someone that's probably not vaccinated or someone that has it and doesn't know it. Why do I want to risk that when I have an option of doing what I do when I'm in there, filling this out and mailing it in? The widespread voter fraud is done mostly on you guys' part. There's not, there wasn't a conspiracy level of fraud to get a duly elected President Joe Biden, the 46th president of the United States. It's just the fact that Republicans see the presidency and see leadership. That's why you do the gerrymandering and the redistricting. We don't have time.
Democrats love to do gerrymandering and redistricting as well,
Sure.
because parties that have power want to maintain power.
Yeah, sure.
That's not a Republican or a
it's
Democrat thing.
definitely a Republican thing.
That's if you're in power, this is how you're going to draw your district to be more helpful to your people.
No, it's definitely a Republican thing. And so the gerrymandering and the redistricting that you guys do is also done to make sure that that's a part of the suppression too, because then you can come up with elections.
So if your definition of suppression is that anything that makes it difficult to go on election day in person to vote,
people don't want to do that anymore, AK.
So this is
So
the
why
difference.
do you guys have a problem with
So
that?
you're changing
Why
the
do I have a
actual
problem with folks
because you're
don't-
changing the rules of the game.
No,
We're playing a game
well,
on
you have
100
to.
on 100 yards, right?
Over a
and you
million
have
people
you have
died.
2 field goals, and you guys want to expand the field 100 yards wide,
No.
and you want to make it 300 yards deep, and then you say, "Why do you care? We're just making it easier to play the game." And you say, "Well, you know what? If you're going to change these metrics, again, I want security." I want safety.
Elections have been secure, and there's been
But now you're admitting that you want to change. You want to change the dynamic.
No doubt. Of course we do.
If you're going to
Because
change
we're
the
in different
dynamic,
times
how
now.
can you guarantee the safety and security?
What's the name of the guy? Whatever his title is, the Trump appointed guy said these elections.
I know
were
you keep
safe
saying
and secure.
yes, from a technological aspect,
Period.
not from a literal.
Period.
This was like the safest and most secure.
He was pretty mundane. I think you should listen to him.
He's talking about the technology, man.
Bro.
He's talking about the technology.
Don't put words into the man's mouth. No.
I'm not putting words into his
He
mouth.
went way beyond the technical part of voting. He went to how because you guys raised saying about the machines, that was crap.
Again, that's technology. That part is
Excuse me.
locked down.
Let me finish. He raised the point about the machines that were bullshit that Republicans talked about. He also raised the point about, he talked about early voting, how they didn't find a widespread vote fraud and early voting and absentee. There was no widespread. He talked about that all. He answered, it's his job. He talked about it all mundanely and said, we expected a high number, so you had to be ready because you expected a high number of early voting and absentee ballots, and they were secure. They were the absentee ballots and the early voting. They were open when they were supposed to, not before, and they sent people out to bro. These elections were incredibly safe. You guys just lost. Republicans hate losing, and like Donald Trump did, you look how he tainted the water before he lost. These elections are rigged. You only say it's rigged when you knew that when he started saying the tea leaves. You were one of them. I sat there before you became the co-host when I said to you. No, matter of fact, when you co-hosted when I said to you, he's going to lose. you guys didn't believe that people had had enough of that hatrism in the world. And we've been talking about him for like 25 minutes. But the elections are safe and secure, and voter and the reason why we had our producer show some of it because the vote happened tonight. And of course, it wasn't going to pass. But I think what Chuck Schumer said was fantastic. That listen, don't just sit up in your office and say what you're not going to do. Come down, let the world see where you stand on the voting rights bill. And I think that now that we see who's not for it, then you now strategically plan about how to unseat that person or ask the hard questions.
And I have the opposite, is that you get to see which people want to change the entire game and not give us guarantees that you're going to stop these things from happening.
Has there ever been a guarantee that you can stop those things from happening?
You need to have more
guarantee.
Because yes, when you're in person and you're doing it, there's a higher guarantee.
I can
because that's why we say
fraud in person.
But that's why we want IDs. We want IDs.
No, you want IDs, yet you don't want to. Oh, y'all kill me with that. Oh Lord.
You know what? This specific topic, talking about this voting rights bill, is all about having a better understanding the perspective of where our two sides come from. You are not concerned about irregularities, fraud, safety, security. You feel that
it's not so widespread.
That have as many people possible to vote as early as they deem is whatever
Felonies,
it might be,
felons,
and felons like that. And
felons should get their rights back. Absolutely, felons should be able to vote while they're on parole, on probation. I think that's stupid that you take their rights away. And speaking of which,
I think you should be able to restore people's voting rights 100%, just like I think you should be able to restore people's Second Amendment right.
Well, some.
They're both in the Constitution, man.
Well, some. I think that speaking of, the caucuses are coming up on February 1st.
Yep.
And they've opted to make them virtual. So you guys probably want to go to the Secretary of State's or your CD chairperson's website. It should be in your party chair's website to tell you how to now go about trying to become a delegate and join vote virtually, which I can't stand because I think wait a minute. Speaking of voter fraud, that's the easiest way to commit fraud. Whoever you are is virtually trying to tally votes with the computer. No one there, but those people. Come on, stop. You guys don't care about voter fraud. So, your big thing about the caucuses coming up is what?
So we just had this long discussion about voter rights, right? About suppressing and who can't be allowed to vote. So yesterday I saw that Representative Mary Franson on Twitter had shared a screenshot from the Douglas County DFL. And so, in Minnesota, our Democrats, Democrat Farm Labor. And in this Facebook post, it specifically said that if you want to attend in person, please be prepared to show proof of full vaccination and to wear a mask. And I thought that was preposterous, given that the entire conversation that we just had about suppression and what is considered suppression, the percentages that we're talking about, people that get suppressed, right? You would agree that more black people have voted in the most recent election, because those were your statements, right? Mm-hmm. More black people. So that means that more black people are voting. Now, if more black people are voting, and we know that in Minnesota,
here y'all go with this biracial crap,
in
right?
Minnesota, that if you combine biracial, Black American, Native American all together, and you say what percentage of these three ethnic groups are fully vaccinated, it's less than 50% if you combine all three of them together. And so the thing that kind of blew my mind is that you had the Democrat Party up in Douglas County knowing, and if they don't know, maybe they didn't realize that this many people that are non-white aren't fully vaccinated, that they can't actually participate at the in-person version of the caucus. Now, the story that our producer pulled up explained that they said, well, you can still come in the front part of the building and you can participate in the unofficial part of the caucus. But if you want to be an official part of the caucus, now people say, well, what's a caucus? How is this different? The caucus is where if you are a Democrat and you want to actually change policy within the Democrat Party and you want to be a person that actually endorses a specific candidate,
You have to become a delegate.
you have to go to caucus, right?
Become a
So
delegate.
if you want to be active in the Democrat Party, you have to go to caucus. If you want to be active in the Republican Party, you have to go to caucus. If you actually want to help pick the actual people for the endorsement process. So this is what kind of blew my mind. And so, like, I've actually been in a Twitter fight with a Democrat person that's running for office that's not obviously endorsed yet, that's seeking the endorsement for the Democrats. Been in an argument back and forth. They're like, oh, Rich, that the Republican who wants to suppress voters with voter ID is making a stink about this. And I'm like, one, again, I don't think that asking for an ID is suppression.
It certainly is.
But if you're going to use that as your logic, how many people don't have an ID? And I did a bunch of data diving, and I found that there's,
Where?
one stat,
Where?
Star Tribune.
No, not the resource.
Oh, what?
Source. I mean, in the state here, you're saying.
Yeah, in Minnesota.
Okay.
That about 7%, okay, of eligible voters don't have an ID that would meet the standard of a voter ID, right? That Minnesota Republicans have brought up. 7%. 7% is much smaller than 50% of the people that are not fully vaccinated that are adults. So that's the thing that I was like, yo, this makes absolutely no sense.
I know y'all love to make now Republicans because they care you guys are so awoke now, and you guys love.
No, we're not woke. We're awake.
Y'all love black folks now.
We're awake.
You guys want to, which is not working. That you guys are trying to make us think of how that, which is the state rule that you need to be wearing a mask to enter certain buildings. The caucus is virtual. If you aren't vaccinated, then you don't have to go. You still can participate just as well.
Maybe another BPOU Democrat basic political operating units, but in specifically Douglas County where they're doing this, there is not an online option.
Then that's their problem.
It's stupid, is what I'm saying. I'm saying
it's not stupid because they want to be safe.
Now, if Republicans adopted that, if Republicans were like, hey, we want to pass a rule that says this, that would be literal voter suppression.
You guys would want to pass a rule that says if you're unvaccinated, don't come in here?
No, I'm saying.
And that would be racist?
That would be super racist. I'm just saying if we put it out there like that, because it would have the actual effect of stopping more black people from voting. You know what I'm saying, though?
I seen how you and plenty of my Republican friends, Facebook friends, put that up. Again, I'm not impressed because guess what? You won't prevent black people that want to truly participate in the process. Because guess what, bro? You and I both know that caucus turnout is always low. There's not a high turnout for caucus or convention. Convention probably a little higher because there's not the red tape, all that sitting for 3 and 4 hours like there's
I get
a
it.
caucus.
Caucus turnout is nowhere near what a general population.
Low, so I never worry about that because but people should, because it's always a way those people that you hate or those rules that you hate are. That's why you should participate in caucus, so you can change them, because those same old gray hairs or those slimy people that you don't like, those are the people that become and get the positions and the power in those parties. So you should go participate in caucus. But again, those always are historically low numbers with turnout. Doesn't matter what color.
But I'm mostly concerned
for black folks.
and calling the hypocrisy of just
they're not being hypocrites.
It is so hypocritical. They're not being hypocrites when they're not saying black and brown folks don't come here. They're saying you unvaccinated, sick ass folks, stay at home. Don't come in here. And if you're black, okay, stay at home. I'll say it too. If you're black and unvaccinated, stay your ass at home. But here's the thing: you're giving, and this is what I love the most about this conversation. You're willing to give the DFL the benefit of the doubt that they're not trying to suppress black people.
Of course,
but for Republicans, you believe that their rule is intentionally trying to suppress black people.
I think that white folks of both parties will suppress certain black and brown folks. Stop. Come on now. I call a spade a spade. However, there you go crying wolf. This is not a case. This is not an instance where these heavily populated white folks are saying, okay, we only got 3 black people in our town anyway, so we don't want them to come out and vote. No, they're telling the folks in that area, if you're not vaccinated, stay away, which is a state mandate right now. So they're doing now, if it were different now, if they were doing it. No, actually, it wouldn't be different if they were doing it and the state didn't mandate it. No, because I thought you guys liked freedom. So how? That's what I'm saying about y'all. Hypocrite, you're right. That's from you and your party. You don't like freedom if it doesn't come from a Republican. But when Democrats say, listen, I have the right to ask you to stay away from me if I think that you're unvaccinated. I have a right to ask you to stay away from me if I think that you're sick. I have a right to ask you to stay away from home if I don't like you. I have just like you guys say, you don't want a cake, a baker to bake a gay cake. Oh, I'm sorry, a cake. He has that right. He or she, I don't remember who the owners were. He or she have that right. Yet the party doesn't have a right to tell the participants to stay away if you're unvaccinated. Your job does.
You want to know what's funny though?
But the party doesn't, huh?
The whole the gay cake thing. The owners of the cake shop said, "We'll give you a cake, gay couple," but they wouldn't specifically put the gay messaging that they wanted, and they said
2 males on top of the darn cake.
But they said, we'll give you a cake. We'll sell you a cake. We just won't decorate it the way that you want us to because it goes against. So that's the whole thing. You make it sound like, get out of here. We don't serve your kind. That's not what happened. They said they just said we won't make the cake this way. We'll give you a normal cake. And if you want to decorate it at home and do whatever you want to do. So, but here's the thing.
Yet they'll make cakes of big breasts and things of that nature.
But the point of that was that you got the context wrong about. Of
it
what
was
they would or
we
wouldn't
don't
do.
like your kind. We'll make obscene
they
cakes.
They said we'll make you a cake.
We'll
we
make
just
obscene
don't want to
birthday
decorate
cakes.
it the way that you want it.
We'll make obscene birthday cakes, but we don't want to put 2 men
Here's
on the
a question.
cake.
We're
not discriminating.
Were they willing to bake the cake?
We're not discriminating though.
Were they willing to bake the cake?
We'll make a titty cake, but we won't make a gay. We won't make a.
I don't think the people in that shop were making that cake. They would make them a cake. They just didn't want to decorate it the way that they wanted. That was it.
Okay, you guys love freedom when it comes out of your mouth, but when the party. The party has a right to tell folks.
They do have a right.
Okay,
we're pointing out we're pointing out how inconsistent. That's what we're pointing out, and that's what I'm pointing.
With them telling people to wear a mask.
Because you're saying that you want people to show IDs.
No, you guys are saying.
No, I'm saying that if we want people to show IDs, that's oppression. But when you are going to have a rule that the unintended outcome is that more black and brown people get excluded from the process, you're like, well, that's not the intention of it.
If you could show me within the last 4 years, 6 years, that the numbers of black and brown people in Caucus had increased, then that to me, then I could maybe listen to what you guys are saying. I could stomach it. But the numbers are been low and they're low. In fact, the Caucus of 20 got lower for black and brown folks. White folks always heavily participate, especially the old. Come on now. You see more gray hairs in there than you do people that look like me or you or younger, even younger white folks. You know, you see our parents in there, and then that goes to their parents. But those caucuses turnouts are not high. Stop playing.
I'm just saying that the intentionality of saying, here's a rule that goes against a belief of suppression when an unintended consequence is that you're suppressing. I find that ironic. I find it that it's because people are more concerned about the virus and they can't go against any of these ideas.
Well, but they should be, because now, if you will, producer, can you throw up the newest COVID numbers? Let's look at the new COVID numbers. So you're talking about them being discriminative up to biracial folks, which is such BS.
Biracial and black.
But look at the COVID numbers, how they increased. Mm-hmm. They haven't decreased. Mm-hmm. They've increased. So now,
it's crazy how many of those people are fully vaccinated too.
If you could show me the numbers of decrease instead of the increases, then I could again stomach what you guys were saying. But the numbers are getting higher. So if people want to stay safe, they have a right to tell you to stay away if you are unvaccinated or if you're feeling sick.
But if that's the thing that again makes no sense that you keep on saying.
Oh, it makes no sense to tell you to stay away if you're unvaccinated.
I'm saying you specifically, yes. Because if you're fully vaccinated, you are still giving it to other people. And
there you go with that. All they're saying is this: because if you're fully vaccinated, come on in.
That's what they're saying.
But if you're not fully vaccinated, they want you to stay in the front room. Yeah. All right, and then take your butt home.
Yeah, but you're
See,
still.
to me, I wouldn't even let them in. I think that what's asked back was about that. Is why are you even letting them in the
my
building?
point is that you
why are you even
still.
letting them in the building?
So let me ask you. Today, Minneapolis, St. Paul. We talked about this last week. Implemented these vaccine passport rules. All that's going to happen is you're just going to have a bunch of people that are fully vaccinated, still just giving each other COVID.
That's okay, as long as they don't do what Antonio Brown did and start coming out with the fake vaccination cards. Those numbers are increasing. Now, I hope, because a lot of people are being, which is the good thing, is more people are being infected with Omicron than Delta, which is really good because, the Omicron, it just gets in you. It's kind of like what's the word? I know it's a virus, but, a cold almost. The Omicron, depending on, hopefully, if you don't have an underlying
Omicron
condition.
is a variant of vaccinated people.
Well, okay, whatever.
That's
But
where it came from. Is
it doesn't-
because so many
but-
people are vaccinated that it was a variant.
Sure.
And that's why it is so transmissible.
Sure, and it doesn't feed in your body long. Just like a cold. Sometimes Omicron is gone within 2 days. So that's the difference. We want to keep people safe. They're responsible to doing that, and this is their way of doing so. They're not telling black folks get out of here. They're saying,
Yeah,
stay away.
just like Republicans aren't saying to black folks, "Get out of
Yes, you
here."
are.
They're saying,
y'all been
they're
saying
saying,
it.
just show us an ID if we can pass.
They're
this type of
saying,
law.
hey, you folks from Somalia, and hey, you folks from
You're saying they don't got driver's license? You tell me that they don't have ID. They can't go to the store and cash a check.
Not if they don't speak English. It's kind of hard.
How are they cashing their checks? Man?
We don't know that they are.
That's insane.
We don't know they are.
You and I both know.
We don't know that they are.
The vast majority of people got IDs
I
in
don't
some
know
way,
that.
shape, or form because you need IDs to participate fully in society, man. That's just the reality of how it is, man.
I definitely don't know that. Neither do you. Okay, you guys just
I'm saying
don't like to
living in Realville.
You guys don't like to lose.
Living in
elections.
Realville, how many
You guys
people
don't like to lose
ain't got an ID at all?
I know plenty of my homies and cousins that don't got IDs. Or
How do they go by? How do they go by a
walk
white?
around with expired ID because they can't afford it?
How do they go by a white owl?
If you've been going to your store for years and years, believe me, you had no problem buying a white owl.
Sure, but what if they got a new employee that just pops up?
Bro, you got no problem. I mean, come
I'm
on.
just saying, bro.
Those people in those stores prey
Listen,
on
man,
black and brown folks, so they have no problem just looking at you.
Wait. So what you're saying is that if you go to little corner stores in North Minneapolis, no one's checking IDs.
North Minneapolis.
No one's checking the IDs for nothing. You buy liquor, buy your white owl.
I'm not.
You're good.
I don't want to say.
That's my point,
I don't want to
dog.
say no. Because I could. I'm just not. What I'm going to say is no comment. That's all I want to say to you. Because I seen something happen today, so no comment. No comment at all. Because I don't want to throw anybody or any neighborhood under the bus. But yes. So anyway, dude, time gets away from us so bad, so quickly. It's almost time to go.
It is almost time to go.
Damn it. You were talking about the shows and guests coming up this month, and I want to reiterate that for you too, with you, that we have exciting guests coming on. Former athletes and former comedians and politicians, of course, And I gotta have. So let me say this first, guys. I don't want you to think that this is a repeat of running out of guests, but I intentionally are gonna have some of those Republican for governor candidates back on because AK knows, I called him. I was so perturbed after I seen them participate in a forum in front of folks that looked like them and voted like them, how they were all saying that this was not a duly elected president. Yet a few of them that sat over there had something different. So to me, hypocrisy is how you speak different in front of folks that look like you and vote like you versus how you would talk to folks that look like me and vote like I do, right? Or when you're trying to get a vote okay, we got to go because don't get me started. But we're intentionally going to have a lot of those folks on so they can answer.
And make sure if you guys are watching the stream, you guys go out there and you support us. Follow us on Instagram.
How could I not say that, right?
Instagram.com/Black Republican, Black Democrat. The easiest way, though, to get to all of our socials, to get to our Patreon, is go to our linktree/BRBD. They'll get you connected with all of our socials out there and give you a chance to contribute to the show. Visit our Patreon account if you guys think that we do a great job and you want to see us do more of this. Please visit the Patreon, become a subscriber. Now, if you have a YouTube, and let's say you've been watching this on Facebook. This is your main way of watching. We actually do YouTube as well, and we have a live stream. And if we had more interaction on YouTube, then we would probably put up both of them together because we have the ability to do that. But you got to subscribe. So if you haven't hit our YouTube, even if you watch religiously on Facebook, go to our YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and that way, you'll see that we're also live streaming on both YouTube and on Facebook. And that's the best way to support us, is to hit that link tree, follow us on our socials, and connect with us.
Don't forget, you forget to ask for the money. Ask for the money. Contribute. No, absolutely. Thank you, guys. You know what? I can't wait for as the show grows, and I start to teach you,
Teach me.
Yeah, more things about politics. You'll become a well-rounded person. You will be. You're getting great, so you've been around. I'm starting to rub off on you anyway.
Yo, my grandpa had a full head of gray hair. My grandpa on my mom's side, by the time he was 46.
Absolutely.
And so I'm 37.
Absolutely,
I got all these grays coming in.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
My wife, she actually hates my beard.
What?
No, she likes baby face. Baby face,
I like you
butt
like that.
chin
You
Abdul.
look like a rugged. You look like a Negro.
I look like a man.
You get arrested if you go over north.
Put some bass in my voice.
Negro, please. You get arrested if you went over north now. Before you wouldn't, because you looked like
I've always liked the
you
beard.
looked like an EP kid.
I keep it trimming, and you know what? I don't go to a barber, right? But I line myself up.
Well, keep lining yourself up. It looks good. And then
I'm good at it.
I don't want. I like this look. I don't want you looking like an EP kid. I want you to look like you can get arrested when you go somewhere. Damn it.
Get arrested.
I'm Jamar.
I'm AK Kamara.
Check us out next week, y'all.
Peace.